When embarking on a long-distance caring situation with a loved one, I think individuals should be aware that things may look differently in different states. So definitely don't be afraid to ask questions and gather information because you can never have too much information.
The most important thing is that you are not alone in this. There are a lot of resources, there are a lot of information that you can use to take care of your loved one. Create your network with your friends, with your family, with the doctors. It helps you a lot in this new journey.
The most important aspect of long-distance caregiving is having genuine care and concern for your loved one, as well as doing your absolute best to do whatever you can to contribute to their overall health and wellness.
Hello, I'm Ann Hall. Welcome to Mature Living. Caregiving takes many forms. A caregiver and a loved one may live in the same house. In this case, assistance can be offered fairly easily, since the caregiver is often familiar with the medical team and others who are assisting in their loved one's care. For others, however, caregiving is done from a distance, often across state lines. This can present its own set of challenges. To help us navigate this topic, we are joined by Rob Louchen, Geriatric Case Manager with ElderLink. Welcome, Rob.
Thanks for having me.
Rob, we know that caregiving can be both challenging and rewarding. In one of the recent Mature Living episodes, we showed a conversation with someone who cared for her husband in her home, so we're a little bit familiar with that. But do most caregivers live with or live near their loved ones? And is there a growing trend to care from a distance? Because family members often live in different states.
There are many caregivers that do live with their loved ones and provide direct care, but increasingly caregiving from a distance is becoming necessary due to the growing number of older adults in this country, as well as the ability for technology to increase long-distance caregiving in the ease of that.
Is there a certain process that should be followed when caregiving from a distance? What are the first steps that a caregiver should take as he or she begins the journey?
There's a lot of things that a caregiver, long-distance caregiver specifically, can do to be a lot of help to the caregiving process. The first of that is really to connect with the primary caregiver, if there is one, and ask, what can I do to help? In addition, there are a lot of coordination pieces that a long-distance caregiver can do, such as managing the finances, communicating with doctors or case managers, as well as helping to manage important documents that might need to be kept track of as well.
So speaking of documents, do you recommend hard copy documents or in the cloud? What's the easiest and safest way to store all this information?
Both, if you have the ability to do so. It's very important to keep original hard copies of any documents that you receive in the mail from your doctor or from really any agency that you're working with. It's best to keep those in one place. So a small plastic box from your local office store or an accordion folder so that everything can be compact, organized, and you can access it when needed. But now you can utilize something as simple as a phone in order to take pictures of and scan those same documents and upload them into an online cloud platform that can be accessed by anyone in that individual's care team within your family.
That's great. Let's say I'm in Virginia and my loved one's in California. How can I select a doctor, interview an in-home caregiver, or tour an assisted living facility if that's what my loved one needs?
Yeah, so You can participate in all of those tasks from anywhere really in the world these days. You can interview folks either over the phone or via video call. You can get virtual tours of facilities, and you can contact a local case manager that is local to the area to assist you in the interviewing process or the locating process of services that you're referring to.
So can technology, some of which you've just mentioned, can it ease the challenge of distance caregiving?
Absolutely. Things can happen a lot more quickly and a lot more easily now that we have such easy access to so many online platforms these days. And so, it's much easier to, say, participate in a doctor's appointment with your loved one from across the country. Or to participate in interviewing a home health aide that is going to be caring for your loved one in the home from 2 hours away. And so it can increase folks' availability to participate in caregiving because there may not necessarily be the same time commitment that it used to take to participate in, say, an interview.
What can you recommend in terms of organizing the family and working together as a team?
Absolutely. Care team is what we call it, and that really encompasses everyone involved in the care of an older adult. That can be brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, grandchildren, parents, as well as all of the medical professionals that are involved in their care. And it's important to make sure that there's open communication between all of these folks and that everyone is utilizing their skills to the best of their ability. One person may be really great at spending time with the loved one that you're caring for and keeping them happy and engaged. Another one may be the organized person, and they might be in charge of all the paperwork and the applications and the forms. And someone else might have a background in the medical profession and might be able to really know and be able to communicate well with the medical team involved in that person's care. And so really utilizing everyone and using their strengths as best as possible in the care of the person that you love.
Are there any pitfalls that could or should be avoided before embarking on a long-distance caregiving situation?
Yeah, the biggest pitfall of long-distance caregiving is a breakdown in communication. When the communication breaks down, it is very difficult for proper care to be given. It's hard to know what type of care is needed, how much of it is needed, and what challenges are currently being presented. So making sure there's open communication between all parties involved is very important.
What resources are available to caregivers to ensure that they're getting the best care for their loved one?
Local Fairfax County resources regarding assistance with long-distance caregiving, as well as older adults in general, would include the ADCR, or Aging, Disability, and Caregiver Resource Line, as well as reaching out to the local area agency on aging. No matter where you are in the country, there's one close to you. And if you're looking for information online, you could look at your local government's websites as to what resources are available locally to you, as well as the National Institute on Aging is another great resource you can access.
Rob, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing all this important information. Later in the show, we'll learn about the Area Agency on Aging's Long-Term Care Ombudsman program. But first, Mature Living producer Fran spoke with Sarah Rodriguez, who's involved in a long-distance caregiving situation with her mother. Sarah will share some experiences and lessons that she's learned on this journey. We'll be right back.
Thank you for joining us today, Sarah. You currently care for your mother. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Perhaps starting with, when did it all begin?
Thank you for having me. I am happy and I feel honored to be here. I am a long-distance caregiver. I am taking care of my mom, who has Alzheimer in her first stage. She is 67 years. She's a happy woman with a beautiful soul. And I am doing this because I love my mom and I want to be part of her new journey. She started to having a lot of issues 3 years ago when she was suddenly changed her mood from being happy to being upset. And she was having a lot of problems with her memory and everything, and we just made the decision to go with the doctor and ask for help.
So tell me about the transition when she was lucid, when she had her faculties about her, and then when you noticed things started going south.
When I really noticed that something happened with her is when she came to my house, because I was living with her all the day. So I was just observing her and said, okay, this is not normal. She just forget an appointment 2 seconds ago. So that it's not normal.
Can you tell us, Sarah, what was important as you began this journey? Where did you turn to for help? Because you're going across country lines here.
It's difficult task, but it's not impossible. My mom is living in a condo. In the condo has a security 24 hours. Because my sister is living in the same place, a lot of people know my mom. We hire a person that is her companion. Her companion stay with my mom like 10 hours per day. That is good, but because both of them, they can do everything together, it's more like a friends instead of taking care of her, because I am taking care of her on the camera. Or I call her, are you okay? She knows that something is happening, but when we are writing or painting and everything, my mom feels proud of her because she says something that I can still do it. This having technology, having smart devices helped me a lot with this journey.
You can see her and interface with her as like we're doing right now. That must be such a comfort. Sarah, what would you recommend to others who are also caring for loved ones from a distance?
I am part of this because I love my mom, because I really want to be part of her new journey to support her. The most important thing as a caregiver that you need to do is try to create your network with your friends, with your family, with the doctors, with therapists, and try to know about the illness. There are a lot of resources that you can find online, that you should check in your county, that if your county offers something. In this case, my county is Fairfax, and I always checking that what is the new, what news has about this illness, how I can take some courses. Every person is different. I know that because I am part of a support group too, when we just share our experience and everything. Every person is different. But at the end, if you understand the illness, I think you can support more your loved one. You are not alone. In my situation, I have dealing with this, so I am helping my mom in her new journey for 3 years. But this is the first year that I become a long-distance caregiver. So just try to ask for help, because sometimes I think that because you are worried and you have a lot of stress taking care of someone, that you never ask for help. But there are people that can help you and can and this pathway and this way can be more easily to take care of your loved one.
We've covered a lot of ground today. Do you have any last thoughts you'd like to share?
Being a long distance caregiver is difficult, but I think it's not impossible. In my situation, I am doing this because I love my mom, because I am the person who I am because of her. I am proud of that. I think my mom always took care of me with lots of love, and then I try to do in this. I know as a human that sometimes I commit a lot of mistakes. I do a lot of mistakes, but don't feel guilty for that, because it's part of the learning thing. So just try to keep informed, try to get some information about the illness, and try to be patient with you and with your loved one. I think this is the most important thing.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Sarah.
Welcome back. In our first segment, we talked with Rob Louchen, a Geriatric Case Manager with ElderLink, and he shared some helpful tips regarding distance caregiving. We also heard from a long-distance caregiver who also shared her perspective on long-distance caregiving. We now welcome Kristen Lucia, the Area Agency on Aging's Long-Term Care Ombudsman, to add her experience to this discussion. Thanks for joining us today, Kristen.
Thank you for having me.
Let's first address what a long-term care ombudsman is.
A long-term care ombudsman is a resident advocate. We advocate for residents in nursing facilities and assisted living facilities, as well as individuals receiving services from adult day health care centers or individuals receiving services from home health care agencies while living at home. We can also advocate if an individual is receiving services from a home health care agency within an assisted living facility or nursing facility. And we work with individuals receiving services, but also individuals looking for long-term care services. So if individuals are seeking long-term care services, we have certain tools or resources we could provide them. For example, we have a checklist for certain things to look for when they're touring an assisted living facility or a nursing facility, as well as tips for advocates. And then we also can direct them to certain resources like the Virginia Department of Health inspection survey reports for nursing facilities, or Virginia Department of Social Services inspection reports for assisted living facilities.
So you're busy.
We are, yes.
Can you speak to the genesis of this initiative? I believe it was once part of the Older Americans Act.
Yes, the Older Americans Act was established in 1978, and our Northern Virginia program was established in 1985. And our program currently covers 137 facilities and about 12,000 beds. But this number has steadily increased over the years. It did not used to be that many facilities or that many beds, and it continues to steadily increase over time.
So this is a national program?
It is a national program.
So does every city or county have an ombudsman?
Yes, every city or county does have an ombudsman. It may look different among different cities or different counties in terms of the way the ombudsman program is set up, but the core principles are always going to be the same. There's going to be a state program, as it is mandated in every state, and then there will be different regional programs as well.
So how easy is it to connect with this important resource?
So individuals wanting to connect with the resource could contact our intake line if they're residing in Fairfax County, Arlington County, City of Alexandria, or Loudoun County, or they could look for the appropriate ombudsman on the Consumer Voice website. They could also contact the ombudsman program in their state, and then the state ombudsman could connect them with the appropriate regional ombudsman program. So there's a lot of different ways someone could go about connecting with an ombudsman. They could also contact our program even if they're out of state. They could contact us for information on long-term care because they would contact the ombudsman in the state or county where the individual is residing, so where the assisted living facility or nursing facility is located, or where the individual is receiving those services. So they could contact our program even if they're out of state. If they contact us in error, maybe they're trying to reach a different long-term care ombudsman program, then we could connect them with the correct ombudsman program by looking at that same resource on the Consumer Voice website. And also they can contact us for just general information on long-term care.
Great, it's a great resource. So once an ombudsman is in place, what should a family member expect from the relationship? How long does the relationship last?
So we have 45 days to work on a case, and during that time we would try to resolve the concern. Like I said, we're resident directed, so we're always trying to resolve the concern on behalf of the resident. And during those 45 days, with the permission of the consumer or the resident, we would reach out to the facility to gather information and then go back and relay that information. if an individual is not their own decision maker, then we could work with their decision maker to also look into the concerns on their behalf with their permission. And our cases, we have different components of negotiation and different components to our case. So we'll either verify or not verify the concern, depending on if we could substantiate it. And then we have different resolution options. So it maybe is going to be not resolved. So we might mark it as not resolved if the individual does not agree. Or it could be partially resolved if some aspects of the concern were resolved. Or sometimes it is fully resolved as long as the individual is happy with the resolution outcome. It could also be withdrawn if in the middle of our investigation they decide they don't want to pursue it further, because we always follow the direction of the individual, the resident or the resident's decision maker. So we only get involved with their permission and to the extent that they would like us to be involved.
Interesting. So you've kind of answered some of these things already, but if a family member is in a nursing home or assisted living and I have concerns about that person's care, how do I go about finding an ombudsman to help me and my family?
So to locate the ombudsman, you could use the Consumer Voice website to locate the appropriate ombudsman in the city or county where you reside. Or if you're not sure, you can contact the state program and they can direct the individual to the appropriate regional program to contact. Or if someone contacted us, then we could direct them to the correct ombudsman program. One thing I will say is when someone's searching for an ombudsman, they do want to make sure they search specifically for their long-term care ombudsman, because there are different types of ombudsman in different roles, and we are specifically long-term care ombudsman.
All of you. Okay, interesting. So what are my family members' rights in this living arrangement at a nursing home or an assisted living facility?
That's an excellent question. So a cornerstone of our program is the residents' rights, and those are mandated under the Older Americans Act, and the facility must guarantee those rights to residents residing in their facility, and residents actually gain more rights upon moving into a facility because those rights are mandated. So some examples of those rights might be the right to access their medical records, the right to receive visits from friends or family of their choosing, the right to privacy during visits, the right to privacy during telephone calls, or the right to receive unopened mail. So there's a lot of different rights guaranteed to residents residing in both assisted living and nursing facilities. The rights do differ somewhat among nursing facilities and assisted living facilities. So, for example, in nursing facilities, an individual would have the right to appeal a discharge, whereas assisted living facilities, that looks a little bit different.
Kristen, this is a lot of information. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I would just like everyone to know that they can always contact our intake line if they have any questions or concerns, questions about long-term care, or concerns about maybe a long-term care service provider, or if they're residing in a long-term care facility and they have concerns. They can always contact us and we can discuss the concern with them, provide telephone counseling, or go out and look into the concern if that's the preference. And also we have a very strong volunteer program. And so we're always looking for new volunteers. So if there's anyone out there who's interested in volunteering in a nursing facility or assisted living facility, we have a training twice a year, and volunteers would work in a specific nursing facility or assisted living facility, so they would get to know the residents very well. And we do provide an initial 3-day training and then ongoing in-services.
And what kind of background do the volunteers have?
It varies. There are specific things we have to be mindful of, like if there's a conflict of interest, and there is a time commitment, a weekly time commitment with the volunteer program. So we do want to just make sure before someone goes through that process that all those criteria are met. So that's something they could discuss with our volunteer coordinator when they contact us.
Kristen, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all this helpful information, very valuable information. And thank you for watching this edition of Mature Living. I'm Ann Hall, and we'll see you next time.